State team that does have size, but it's young size, and how they deal with that guy right there going to be that's where Kansas State has to start.
The Wildcats are young, they're inexperienced, they've had injuries, they've had COVID issues this year, and they are without their starting point guard today, Nigel Pack. He hasn't practiced in 2+ weeks, so even though he's out of COVID protocol as of today, they're going to be holding him out. Couple of starting lineup changes for West Virginia. Jordan McCabe and Taj Sherman each make their first starts of the season. How do you read into that, Chris?
You know, I think they're coming off a loss. They've had 2 weeks to reevaluate, Anish, and they either want to motivate guys who had been in that lineup by using the bench to do that, or they feel good about, going with some of these other guys, or Jordan McCabe perhaps at the point, to get some more distribution since they are playing differently without Oscar Tshiebwe here anymore.
And we get an early foul on McCabe. You look at Bob Huggins, one of just 2 coaches, along with Roy Williams, to win 300 games at 2 Division I schools. Classic Huggy Bear when we talked to him yesterday. Doesn't give you a whole lot, but the more you talk to him, the more he reveals. There is Mike McGurl, leading scorer for Kansas State. Nearly a turnover. It turns into one. Taz Sherman leading the break. Has it poked out of bounds. Sherman has been so good off the bench this year. Leading candidate for 6th man of the year in the Big 12, inserted into the starting lineup today. There is Deuce McBride, West Virginia's leading scorer, 17 a game in conference play. Starting lineup for Kansas State, McGurl, Rudy Williams making his 4th straight start with Nigel Pack still out, Selton Miguel, the freshman from Angola, and then Bradford, the 7-footer down low, another freshman.
You know, the other thing, Anish, putting McCabe in the starting lineup, you could take Miles McBride off the ball and allow him to be more of a scorer, an attacker, particularly in the half court.
What do you worry about, Chris, when it's a team, and West Virginia is not the first to deal with this, but having a 2-week pause in season, what do you worry about?
First thing is shape. With how hard, and that's, look, we know that about West Virginia. One of their difference makers is their effort. So what kind of shape are guys in? Timing, particularly on the offensive end, timing of running sets, timing of getting into shots, all of that stuff. When you've had a layoff, man, it is tough to get it back, particularly in a game.
Jalen Bridges with the touch there. The redshirt freshman now 7 of 12 from 3 in conference games. 3 early turnovers by K-State, still without a field goal attempt. Bradford down low off the feed from McGurl. That's a good-looking 7-footer. They think he's got a chance to be a special player in this league.
He will eventually be a pro. He's got to go through the process. He's got to run his own race, but he is really talented, man. And then West Virginia coming right back at you.
Bridges again. He's got 5 early. Bruce Weber lamented after Tuesday's loss to Oklahoma that we don't really have a guy right now who can go and make a play. Well, somebody has to emerge. Who's the best bet to be that guy?
Well, I think ultimately it's got to be Miles McBride. And again, I think it gets back to putting McCabe at the point and allowing McBride to be that guy. And then Jalen Bridges, he is really unique in his talent set. And you can see his length, his ability to finish at the rim. You mentioned his ability to knock down a perimeter shot. They love this guy. He sat out last season as a redshirt. I think needed to get some game reps under him. Bob Huggins giving him the opportunity to do that. He has a chance to be a really, really good player.
Another 3-pointer, no good by Miles McBride. And the rebound taken by Bradford. Rudy Johnson looking for help. And that is 5 turnovers in the first 4.5 minutes for K-State.
Well, their offense doesn't help their offense. Turnovers, can't get to the foul line, bad shot selection, all a product of a young team, and Bruce Weber has dealt with that all year. But the other thing, Anish, their offense doesn't help their defense. Those turnovers often leading to runouts for the other team. I mean, it's all tied together for this Kansas State, and most of it is tied to being young.
And a travel on McBride. This West Virginia team, 9-4, 3 of the 4 losses have come to teams currently in the top 10. Gonzaga, Kansas, and Texas. And in each of those games, the Mountaineers led at halftime. Three-pointer rattles out by Deshaun Gordon, who's K-State's leading scorer and rebounder in league games. McBride for 3, hits.
Man.
And a timeout by Bruce Weber. West Virginia, 2-week layoff in all, Chris, and they open the game on a 10-2 run.
Well, and your hope after a layoff like that is that your best players come to play in a game like this. And Miles McBride has certainly done that.
We welcome those viewers who just watched Florida take care of Georgia. 14th ranked West Virginia, after a 2-week layoff due to COVID, off to a nice start against Kansas State, leading 10-2. The last time we saw this Mountaineers team, they lost a heartbreaker to Texas. Then COVID hit. The next 3 games all postponed. Today, all 11 scholarship players available for the Mountaineers. And yesterday, Bob Huggins was able to have his first full practice since that Texas game 2 weeks ago.
He had no idea, and he was very clear about that on our call yesterday, no idea what his team was going to look like today. When you have a layoff like that, Anish, there's a couple things that happen. First of all, you evaluate how guys you've been playing a lot of minutes are playing. He decides not to start Sean McNeil or Emmett Matthews today. Jordan McCabe in the lineup. I think part of that is to allow Miles McBride to play off the ball and become more of an attacking scorer, and he's done that to start the game here. 5 early points. And then the other thing that you hope is that your defense is intact. And look, this is a Kansas State team that has struggled all year offensively. But this West Virginia defense has been engaged. And one of the areas I thought they struggled before that layoff for COVID was they weren't the same defensive team. You go back to their last 3 games, their opponents are shooting over 45% from the field. That's uncharacteristic of West Virginia. Their offense will be there, but everything for them has to start with their defense. And against the K-State team that has struggled, this is a game to get yourself right on that end.
5 turnovers already for K-State, less than 5 minutes into this game. The Wildcats have lost 5 in a row. They lost 6 players to transfers after last season. One of the youngest teams in the country. Injuries have hit this team hard. It's been a Molotov cocktail, really, of injuries, COVID, youth, inexperience, and the lows have been really low. They lost to a Division II team by double digits in non-conference. And, of course, no Nigel Pack today. This is a team that's been searching for a playmaker, somebody who can go and create not just for his teammates but for themselves. Pack was that guy. He's been in COVID protocol. He's the starting point guard. He was out of protocol today, but Bruce Weber said he hadn't practiced in 2+ weeks, so they weren't going to play him. It's a big loss for a team that's searching for a lot of answers right now.
Well, they need his handling. They need his scoring. They need him to take some pressure off of a guy like Mike McGurl, the senior, who has really struggled in part because they're asking him to do a lot of things I don't think he's capable of doing. It's a great movie, The Perfect Storm. It's a George Clooney, Mark Wahlberg vehicle, Anish. And that's exactly what happened to this Kansas State team. You have basically 3 storms conversion, and it's been a real struggle. It has.
perfect is a euphemism as Mike McGurl knocks it down. And Ishraf here in our Charlotte studios, Chris Spatola in Hillsborough. And there is Derek Culver, one of the top big men in the Big 12 Conference. Deshaun Gordon, he has been K-State's best player in league games. And the three by Rudy Williams is no good. We get a foul on Bradford.
Derek Culver is an absolute force. And when he runs the floor, he's as good as anybody. Good pair of hands, obviously a really good finisher. And a good way to get yourself going, that being his first bucket, good way to get yourself into this game.
It was big news when Oscar Tshiebwe, one of the top freshmen in the Big 12 last year, decided to leave the West Virginia program. He has since transferred, headed to Kentucky. He was the other big with Culver as McCabe knocks it down. Now with Culver as the focal point inside for West Virginia, how does that change the Mountaineers' DNA?
Well, I think it puts obviously more on Culver, but I think that's a good thing. Like he's now the guy. He is the guy on the interior for them, and I think that's a good thing. I think sometimes there's addition by subtraction. You know, like Oscar Tshiebwe did not have a productive summer. I think a big part of Oscar Tshiebwe was reading his headlines. The fact that he ended up going to Kentucky is pretty transparent to me. This is a guy who he's feeling himself these days. So I think now it's a West Virginia team that can put that young man aside and say, let's go do this. And, you know, that guy right there, I think is going to be the beneficiary.
Chris, you watched him a lot early in the season. It didn't seem like it was a fit when the two of them were on the floor at the same time.
It's hard to play that way these days, particularly if you can't force the other team to have to adjust to your size. You know, the finishing wasn't always consistent, particularly with Tshiebwe. You know, other than the glass, it wasn't working. There wasn't enough space, particularly for some of these guys on the perimeter who can attack and get in the paint.
West Virginia opening this game on a 15-4 run. K-State already with 6 turnovers, almost half their season per game average. Gordon leaning in. And we get a foul call down low.
You know, it's interesting. Jordan McCabe, a guy who started a bunch of games last year, was really only playing about 7 minutes a game before their 2-week COVID pause. Here he is in the starting lineup, and he's made a nice impact. He's hit a 3. He's made some defensive plays, and again, he's allowed, because he's running the point, he's allowed McCabe to be off the ball, and they're allowing Bridges and McBride, rather, to go and be scorers.
Yeah, McBride along with McCabe and Taz Sherman getting the start today. McBride is a usual starter. 7-0 West Virginia run. You had the offensive foul on Deshaun Gordon on the other end, and K-State right now can't get out of its own way. Luke Kasuki in the game, 22 in white. Looked like he traveled, may have gotten away with it. Offensive rebound. And this time he did travel. 8 turnovers for the Wildcats. Over on ESPN, our full day of great college basketball is capped off by this one. LSU second in the SEC. Kentucky. What has happened to Kentucky, Chris?
What has happened to Kentucky? What has happened to Duke? You know, trafficking in freshmen. This was not the year to be in that market, Anish, and they're going up. I'll tell you what, Alabama may be the best team in the SEC. The best offensive team in the SEC is LSU with Cam Thomas, Trendon Watford, Javonte Smart. That team can really score.
Think of where we are in college basketball. I know it's not February, so what Joe Lunardi puts out there, it's fun fodder, but right now he's got Duke outside of the tournament field, Kentucky way out. North Carolina is on the bubble. Could you imagine a bracket without Kentucky, Duke, and Carolina? What's happened to these Blue Bloods?
Well, they're very young, and outside of being young and turning over a roster from last year to this year in a pandemic, outside of that difficulty, Anish, they don't have identities. And with the fits and starts to schedules, Duke, we know, was on pause there around the Christmas break.
Yeah.
It's just hard to find an identity. I mean, look, young players, typically freshmen, they don't even know who they are. So if you're playing 6 or 7 of them, then how extrapolate that to an entire team? How is a team supposed to know who it is? They're asking veterans to assume roles, to ascend into roles that they're just not comfortable being in, and that's what you get.
And meanwhile, Bob Huggins told us that how the pause concerned him because he felt his team was playing well before that. He thought, hey, they should have beat Oklahoma. If they hit free throws, they beat Texas. You look at 3 of West Virginia's 4 losses, all to teams in the top 10. Gonzaga, Kansas, and Texas. And the Mountaineers had a halftime lead in all 3 of those games. Shot clock down to 7. A long 3 is offline. K-State ball. Well, Chris, for starters, this offensive possession for K-State has to, at the very least, end with a shot. That has been an issue so far. 6 field goal attempts, 8 turnovers.
It's going to be hard to win with that disparity.
And Bradford missed the bunny. Here comes West Virginia. Sean McNeil, 22 in blue, into the game. McNeil has the mismatch. Gave it up. Kedrian Johnson now. Out of bounds to West Virginia. So much for a 2-week layoff. The Mountaineers have come out like a bear who missed breakfast. The exclusive presentation of college basketball is presented by 5-Hour Energy Shots. Get it done. Just 2 years ago, Kansas State won a share of the Big 12 regular season title, and a promising senior year that was for Barry Brown and Dean Wade and Kamau Stokes. And Ashraf, Chris Patola with you. You forget where the journey started for that group and that core. As freshmen, they finished 8th in the Big 12.
Yeah. Look, this is how you get good in college basketball unless you're recruiting multiple top 15 freshmen, okay? Like, this is how you have to get good. You're going to have some real down years. And then hopefully those guys stay in your program. And eventually you have, like you said, an Elite 8 team by the end of it. Look at Texas. Look at Baylor in this conference. I mean, both of those programs grew organically. And, I think Shaka Smart would have hoped he could have kept some of those other guys who left early longer. But the point is, his backcourt grew organically. Same thing for Scott Drew. That's how you have to do it now in college basketball. And you just hang on for dear life, hoping you could keep these guys and they don't transfer or they don't go pro.
It's tough to hit refresh every year with freshmen and get the kind of results that Kentucky and Duke have had, but even in recent years, the returns for both those programs haven't always been what we thought they were. Duke didn't go to a Final Four with Zion Williamson.
No, look, the national championship they did win in 2015, which we forget about some of the veterans on that team for Duke. That was the outlier. Those are the outliers. I think what we're seeing this year with Duke, Kentucky, is going to be more of the norm. And let's not forget, these other programs are adjusting to dealing in that world. And not all these high-level freshmen are going to Duke and Kentucky anymore. I mean, Cade Cunningham is at Oklahoma State. That talent is starting to spread out.
K-State just 4 points, 10 minutes into this game, and that three doesn't fall. Offensive rebound grabbed by Antonio Gordon. Gordon's another guy who has battled through injuries. He was shelved due to COVID issues. Nearly turnover number 10. Shot clock at 8. And that is knocked out of bounds by McNeil. If you just turned this game on, you would have had no idea that West Virginia hadn't played in 2 weeks.
No, you wouldn't. I also think if you're coming back off of 2 weeks, Kansas State is probably the team that you would want to play. I mean, let's be honest here. The team's 1-6 in the conference. They're 5-10. And again, we just talked about how they're going to be good eventually. But if you've been off 2 weeks, this is a good team to play to try to get healthy. And West Virginia has met the moment. Their defense has been great. Their effort's been good. And they've made shots.
And an offensive foul away from the ball on K-State. It's on Casey Eziagu. And another turnover.
That's a good call. He does slide in there. Eziagu, a guy who redshirt sophomore, transfer from UTEP, a guy who just back playing again, had been out with an injury for a while there. They need his size, and he's going to be really good.
K-State just doesn't have much in the paint right now, and Eziagu was a shot blocker. They have not had that element, and teams have been doing this. Ooh. Above the rim to Deuce McBride. 11 unanswered for West Virginia. A 21-4 run to open this game. Deshaun Gordon from 15, and finally K-State ends the drought. They had not scored in more than 6 minutes. Inside to Culver. To the right hand, no.
And how about that defense by Bradford? The freshman stayed big, used his length, forced Culver to take a tough shot, oversized.
Bradford, West Virginia will give him that. Culver the rebound. Taz Sherman from the corner. He got the start today. He's been triple espresso off the bench this year. And Bradford out of control. Offensive foul. Turnover number 11 for K-State.
Miles McBride has been outstanding in this first half. How about using that athleticism? A set play, really good screen there by Osaboyan. And you hit the athlete over the top. Good pass and really good finish.
Gabe Osaboyan is a Bob Huggins type of player. May not give you a whole lot in the scoring department, but he is a pest defensively when he comes in.
He knows his role. You know, he's not coming in to jack threes. He's in to take charges, grab rebounds, be a defensive stopper.
McNeil's three no good. He's been a little feast or famine this year. Williams, and another turnover. That's 12. Kansas State, 12 minutes into this game, is averaging a turnover per minute.
And most of them unforced. I mean, it's not like West Virginia's pressing. Their defense in the half court has been good, but these are self-inflicted wounds. These are unforced turnovers.
One of the things Bruce Weber told us, his team had to get some easy baskets on the inside as we get a foul. He said Kansas State has to get to the free throw line. Nothing has been easy. No free throws. K-State staring at a 15-point deficit early. ESPN's exclusive Manhattan, Kansas. Anish Shroff alongside Chris Spatola. The scoreboard tells one story, but it was West Virginia who hadn't played in 2 weeks. K-State, though, it looks like it hasn't played in 2 months.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I forget what old coach said this, but Kansas State has two problems: their offense and their defense. They just, it's not even necessarily shot selection, although some of them have been poor. They haven't been able to get enough shots up at the basket because they've turned it over. And then on the other end, an area where they have struggled all year, Kansas State, straight line drives, everything at the basket. Can't guard the bounce. I mean, it's been a tough tough go so far for Kansas State.
It looked like Bruce Weber was breathing pretty hard underneath that mask. And it's probably a good thing we can't lip read this afternoon. Prior to last season, K-State had been to the NCAA tournament 3 years in a row. Since then, they've lost 21 of their last 25 Big 12 games. And right now, they're just struggling to finish a possession with a field goal attempt, let alone a basket. More turnovers than shots at the 7.5-minute mark. That is turnover number 13.
Oh, and West Virginia is being really aggressive on any ball screen or crossing action, as you would expect. I mean, this is how West Virginia plays. They're going to deny passes and make life hard for you.
Just the third turnover for West Virginia. Big Monday on ESPN at 7 Eastern. Syracuse, big win against the top 25 Virginia Tech team today. The Orange go to Charlottesville to take on the lone unbeaten team in the ACC. That is Virginia, 5-0 in conference. And then Texas Tech heads to West Virginia. Another top 25 matchup in a loaded Big 12. An offensive foul on Mike McGurl. Turnover number 14 now for K-State. 21 possessions, 14 turnovers for the Wildcats. McBride over Gordon. There's Osaboyan. Shot clock doesn't reset, and that'll be over and back.
They tried to run that same lob play they ran earlier for McBride, where he got the dunk, and the back half of that action, if you don't have the lob, is you post McBride. And you'd love to see him go to the basket. You know, he hit a fall away, a little mid-range fall away to start the game. You'd love to see him go right at the defender and either get, try to get a bucket or at the very least get fouled.
Now the challenge right now, Chris, for K-State. Holding on to the ball, getting a good shot. Now that looked like an opportunity, but it went through Bradford. Skip pass intercepted. 15 turnovers now. McBride to McCabe. Culver was waiting for the double. It comes late, and he's fouled on the drive. I think they might call this one on Culver. Oh, they said it's a travel on Derek Culver. 5th turnover for the Mountaineers. Gordon looking for help. McGurl, good look, and knocks it down.
Nice. Well, that's good offense. You went baseline. He didn't panic. McGurl did a nice job calling for the ball, and when his feet are set, he's a very efficient shooter. The problem this year is he hasn't been able to set his feet very often.
McCabe away off, rebound Eziegu. Deshaun Gordon, and that's back-to-back buckets for K-State. Timeout, Bob Huggins. We're back in 30 seconds. One of the things Bruce Weber told us very candidly yesterday, when opposing teams go on runs, he said, we don't have anybody who can stop the bleeding for us. Barry Brown, had been that guy, that defensive stopper. This is a young team still very much searching for an identity.
It is, and they don't have a creator, especially with Nigel Pack out. They don't have anybody who can break down a defense, draw help, and create an easy shot for somebody else. And oh, by the way, they're playing a West Virginia team that was off for 2 weeks. And I know they only had limited guys in practice, but off for 2 weeks, coming off a loss, a gut punch of a loss against Texas. So you knew, regardless of how well they were able to practice in the last 2 weeks, you knew at the very least that West Virginia was going to come out with effort and engage to play this game. And I think that timeout that Bob Huggins just called, Anish, it says a lot. Like, he is using this game to get back connected with his team and to start building up those habits that he wants.
Osaboyan picked up the foul, and there's not a lot of turnaround time. We ran the promo before the last break. Big Monday, Texas Tech is coming to Morgantown. Chris, what's it like? Put yourself back in your playing days. You have a gut-wrenching loss like West Virginia did against Texas, and then you've got to sit on it for 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's really, really tough, and it becomes tougher. And this is where COVID and the pandemic, I don't think fans really understand. Because not only do you have to sit on a loss for 2 weeks, a lot of these guys, Anish, weren't even able to touch a ball, weren't even able to go into the gym. So that's even harder. So you can't even work on your game after a loss like that. It's incredibly tough. And then to have to pick right back up and resume a Big 12 schedule. I mean, that's brutal.
Osaboyan kicks it out to McNeil. Launches, in and out. Ball batted up. And the rebound to Osaboyan. McBride knocks it down. And you saw what West Virginia does really well. They shoot 39% from three in conference play. And as usual, they're one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the country.
And he is one of the most improved three-point shooters in the conference. He was not a three-point shooter last season, or really in high school. He was a scorer, and in many ways it still is. But he is 7 of 12 from three in the last 3 games, and he's on fire here today. Miles McBride.
Was there a cover or was there a happy hour special, Chris? I want to know.
You know what, Anish? Here's the thing about guys from the Ivy League like Dallin Cuff is it's not just that they're smart, it's that they want you to know how smart they are. I can't imagine living with that type of pretension. And when you're as fashion forward as a guy like me, sometimes you're just not appreciated in your time. And that's okay. That's fine if Dallin wants to play it like that. Went with the mock look today, the Mike Bray look. This is fashion forward, baby. If you're going to live like this, you're going to deal with a little hate.
You're familiar with the definition of forward. You know what that means, right?
Are you saying I'm not moving fashion in the forward direction? What are you trying to say to me here?
Well, fashion means you have disciples, usually. I'm not Ivy League, Chris, but I have a Harvard sweatshirt.
Yeah, well, you know, you do agree with my Ivy League assessment, though. I mean, let's be honest. It's not that they're smart. They want everybody to know how smart they are. That's the problem.
Well, isn't that why you go to an Ivy League school? Isn't that half of it? If you can't rub it in, what's the point?
High boards. True, and high boards and good grades and all of that. All of that, I guess, matters. But the pretension is really the thing.
Rudy Williams misfires out of bounds to West Virginia. You saw the graphic earlier. If you missed it, when Kevin Connors had the glow in the studio, his Bills one win away from losing another Super Bowl. Miles McBride has 12 points. Kansas State has 11. When you pop that graphic with 12 minutes to play, okay, it's still early. You pop it at the under 4 timeout. Reason to be more than a little concerned if you're Bruce Weber. A rebound, Selton Miguel.
The heart and soul. And he's the heart and soul of this team, Miles McBride. He gives them their edge. He gives them their competitive spirit. I like the move to take him off the ball to start this game. He clearly came in to be aggressive to score the basketball. What a player. I mean, he's not a traditional point guard per se, but he's a guy you want running your team for all of those intangible things I just said. What a player.
And Chris, you alluded to it. He has really improved his three-point shooting. 43% on the season. That number close to 50% now in conference play.
He's worked. That's the other. He's their hardest worker. He is the heart and soul of this team.
Davion Bradford, the freshman out of St. Louis, over Culver. It's a 14-point lead now for West Virginia. Less than 2 minutes to go in an opening half that has been largely dominated by West Virginia and a lot of self-inflicted wounds by the Wildcats. 17 turnovers for K-State. Culver now 1 out of 5. Ezeagu sandwiched and fouled.
Why stay inside the lines when you could add some flavor to everything around you? A little cheesy here, crunch of color there. Discover the possibilities of just $1. Taco Bell's $1 loaded nacho taco. It's value beyond belief.
Osaboyan picked up his second foul. First free throw attempts of the afternoon for Kansas State. Bruce Weber told us yesterday for K-State to have a chance. Get easy baskets inside. That hasn't happened. Take care of the ball. That hasn't happened. Get to the free throw line. Up until now, that hadn't happened.
Well, in most games, if you're holding the opponent to 27 by the half, I think you'd feel pretty good. I mean, it's, in all honesty, it's only a 12-point game. When you go down all of the stats from this first half, Anish, you would think this is a 30-point game. And the one thing Kansas State has done is they have taken the air out of the ball. They have extended their possessions. It's been a low possession half. So West Virginia, as well as they've played, only 27, and it's a 12-point game.
A lot of contact in the post. Emmett Matthews smooth from 15. Matthews coming off the bench today for the first time this season. Missed those 2 crucial free throws at the end of the Texas game. A lot of dribbling by McGurl, guarded well by Johnson. Shot clock down to 10. Turned over again. Bridges, flush.
That's a killer. Just an absolute killer.
Shot clock is off. McBride pokes it away from Williams. 5 seconds. Rudy Williams down the lane. And it appears that the basket will count, a goaltend. 17 points, a season low in any half for K-State this season. After a 2-week layoff, West Virginia takes a 2-touchdown lead into the locker room. 14 points off 18 forced turnovers. K-State more turnovers than points. Kevin Connors, Sean Farnham, and the elitist, Mr. Cuff. Saturday Showcase is presented by 5 Hour Energy. First game in 2 weeks for number 14 West Virginia and the Mountaineers with a 31-17 halftime lead. Anish Shroff in our Charlotte studios. Chris Spatola, I hope I point the right way. I did. Spatola is in Hillsborough, North Carolina. K-State could not point the right way in the first half. 18 turnovers, 17 points. That's been the story.
Yeah, a lot of self-inflicted wounds. They've given the ball to West Virginia a lot in this game to this point in that first half. But look, give West Virginia a lot of credit. A team that was off for 2 weeks because of a COVID pause. They came out with a lot of energy. They were defensively, I thought, engaged. And then Miles McBride was terrific. I don't know if he was one of the 6 guys who was able to practice over the last 2 weeks for West Virginia, but he looks like he was. He has come out aggressive, attacking, a couple threes in that half, 12 points. Really good stuff from McBride.
West Virginia's got a big game Monday, on Big Monday, against Texas Tech. That is in Morgantown. The last time out, the Mountaineers lost on that heartbreaking 3 by Andrew Jones in the final seconds against Texas. As you mentioned, then COVID hit. Bob Huggins told us he wasn't sure how this team would come out and play. They didn't have a lot of practice time together. In fact, yesterday was the first full practice since that Texas game 2 Saturdays ago. Well, for K-State, if they're to get back into the game, it starts with taking care of the ball and sloppiness right off the bat.
Well, and you like the design out of the halftime. Bruce Weber drawing up a lob to try to get an easy bucket, maybe some energy and momentum. And it's a microcosm of how this has gone. Just can't complete it.
McCabe and Taz Sherman both on the floor. Both started today for the first time this season. Different starting lineup by Bob Huggins. Here's Culver with the shot clock winding down. Can't get the bounce. And it's snatched by Bradford. Culver, not really a factor in this game. 1 of 6, 2 points, only 2 rebounds. Selton Miguel, the freshman from Angola. And then the defense did not get back. Jalen Bridges for the easy 2. He's got 7. Miguel again fouled on the drive. First foul on Sherman, and 2 shots coming for Miguel. Now, Bruce Weber told us he is a young man who needs some refinement, but the potential is there. Later today on ESPN, it's LSU and Kentucky. The Tigers second in the SEC. Kentucky needing a spark, needing to turn it around. This is the worst start that John Calipari has had as a head coach at the collegiate level.
You know, it's tough, Anish. Kentucky an example, Kansas State today an example of that, in Kansas losing today to Oklahoma, another example. It's very hard to play this game when you don't know where your points are going to come from. That's the case with Kentucky, a young team that's trying to figure out how they can consistently get offense. Kansas State, obviously, and then Kansas. I mean, you know, it's... Look, I think O.J. Abaji's a good player. Marcus Garrett are good players. But they are guys who could very easily give you 25, but in the next game give you 7. They are not those type of scorers where you're going to get a consistent number every game. They don't have anybody they can throw it to on the block like they did last season or the last few seasons. They don't have a guard who can break things down. So offense, it's an odd look for Kansas, but offense has been a real struggle.
Should Kansas play a little more through David McCormick?
You know, if he'd give you something, I mean, he's not a great passer. So, like, even if you think, okay, he's not a very accomplished scorer on the block, you throw it to him. He's not going to draw a double in these, so it's not going to open up a whole lot of stuff. I actually think their better lineups are small.
Yeah.
Now, they get pounded on the glass a little bit, but I think those are their better lineups. The problem is they just don't have – Garrett was good today, gave you 21. But again, he and Agbaji – better offensive players. They're improved, but they're not, you know, they're not your top line guys, top of the scouting report kind of guys that we're used to Kansas having.
Kansas has lost 3 in a row. First time that's happened since 2013. Derek Culver, meanwhile, picked up his second foul. Sherman, and a foul.
Pass. What a pass. Good pass by Derek Culver there, top of the key. A good back cut, good movement, good screen here for Jordan McCabe. And they switched. K-State switched it, but you got to switch to make a play if you're Rudy Williams, and a really good delivery from the 6'10 Culver.
So what should have Williams done there, Chris?
You got a body, you know, you switch to, he was switching to steal, but you've got to close up that gap. You know, if there's, you want to actually make contact with the offensive player, and you're too far away, and that's where the angle for Sherman was able to come about, and the passing window for Culver.
First 2 points for Sherman, who has been a catalyst off the bench. A little light pressure from West Virginia there. Sherman starting today for the first time this season. Came in averaging almost 12.5 per game in less than 22 minutes a game. And turnover number 20 on Kansas State.
I don't know what Gordon's looking around for. I mean, that's his turnover. There was no foul there. You know, that's where if you're Bruce Weber, you could draw anything you want on a marker board. You can coach your tail off. At the end of the day, these guys got to take responsibility for what's going on here today. 20 turnovers, 2.5 minutes into the second half. I don't care who you're playing in each. That's unacceptable.
The points to turnover ratio, not ideal. Gordon swatted at the rim. You can hear everything in the West Virginia bench on the road, letting the chorus be heard. Out of bounds to Kansas State. Chris, to your point, 20 turnovers for K-State. That ties a season high, and there's 17 minutes left in the game.
Yeah.
The hope is for K-State fans that you go through the lumps in this pandemic, COVID-ravaged season, and you hope within this group you can find a core like you did in 2016 when Kansas State started 1-5 in conference. But Barry Brown was a freshman, so was Dean Wade, so was Kamau Stokes, and 2 years later, that group reached the Elite Eight. As seniors, they won a conference title.
Well, and that comes down to sticking with this. You know, losing can have a calcifying effect, and this is really the first time that I've seen Kansas State this year where it looks like losing has had an effect on their psyche. But the question is, after a season like this, they do have talent. I'm with you, Anish. I mean, they're not even playing without Nigel Pack, talented freshman. Selton Miguel, talented freshman, learning how to play. Davion Bradford. They have young players. Then you go to the sophomore class. You know, Deshaun Gordon, Antonio Gordon. Like, they have good players. But In this day and age in college basketball, if you have the year that they're probably going to end up having, how many of these guys can you convince to say, hey, look, we are in this together for the long term. Let's get to work this summer and come back better next year.
There's Miguel on the inside. And Chris, we live in the age of instant gratification. In college basketball, that is the transfer portal. And guys don't like what they're seeing. They want a fresh start. They want a new situation. The easy choice now is to leave.
Or opt out. Yeah, and the rule is about to change. So these guys are going to be able to transfer and not even have to sit out for a year. Look, it's a bad trend, and I'm not necessarily against. There are good examples of transferring. There are situations where it has worked out. Guys have transferred. Some of them have gone on to be pros. But there is also something to believing in hard work and sticking through something. Look, I went to West Point, and I wanted to leave almost every single day I was there, but I am better for having stuck through that process. And it's a tough trend that we're seeing here.
Selton Miguel has given this team a spark in the second half. He has all 9 of K-State's points since halftime, and hey, look up, it's a 10-point game all of a sudden. Wildcats have tightened up on defense. McCabe not close. And then the foul on Njai. Wildcats starting to make things a bit interesting. ESPN's exclusive.
Selton Miguel, a freshman from the state of Florida. Best when he is driving the ball to the basket. Was a little bit in love with his three-point shot early in the year, but when you drive it and you get stuff close, it's amazing how you are shooting at a bigger bucket when you decide to set those feet and shoot a three. Had 0 in the first half, has 9 here in the second half, and give him a little spark. I like this freshman, Anish. He's got a good body, good athlete. He's aggressive. Just has to learn how to play the game.
West Virginia this season, weirdly better when trailing at the half. They've had comebacks. Oklahoma State comes to mind recently. It's been a few weeks since the Mountaineers have played. Miguel, a young man who came to the United States from Angola as a teenager, played for the Angolan national team at the 2018 FIBA games. I believe, Chris, the original Dream Team, 92, their first game, wasn't it, against Angola?
Yeah, Angola. Charles Barkley famously saying, I don't know anything about Angola,
That's
but
right.
I know they in trouble.
And that day they were. Seni Njai picked up a technical foul. The officials at the monitor seeing if there was a trip on the last foul on Njai. It was not a trip, but it was enough to warrant a technical. And West Virginia has opened the door for K-State. What are they seeing there, Chris?
Your guess is as good as mine. I don't really know. I mean, he was transitioning back to the defensive end, and maybe he said something, but I didn't see anything there that would elevate to a technical foul.
So 4 fouls now on Njai, who gets a seat on the bench. 3-pointer on the way, no good by Gordon. That would have cut it to 5. K-State,
no kidding,
has not been this close in a long time. On the backdoor cut, it's Bridges.
Ooh. Another back cut basket. And the redshirt freshman Jalen Bridges finishing at the rim.
McGurl's three doesn't fall off of Osaboy, and it stays with K-State.
Jalen Bridges, they love him. He's got a unique skill set, a terrific athlete, 6'7". He's an interesting story, a guy who reclassified, and he was going to go to a prep school, and he's got really good parents. He's got really strong parents. And they said, you know what, why don't you just enroll at West Virginia early? You can get in that system. You can practice with them for the year rather than going to a prep school. And that's what he did. He practiced. He redshirted last year, practiced all year, made him more prepared to play this year. And he is, the sky is the limit. He's got a really, really unique skill set with that body.
With Oscar Tshiebwe gone, he's been bumped into the starting lineup. Sherman knocks down the three. Boy, is he smooth.
He is.
He averaged 26 a game in junior college, and like so many players for Bob Huggins, second year in the system, we're starting to see him blossom. A turnover, number 22 by K-State. Sherman catch and shoot, knocks it down. And just like that, the lead mushrooms to 16. Taz Sherman with back-to-back threes from Mountain Mama. With Oscar Tshiebwe out of the picture, Seni Njai has a chance to get some more minutes for West Virginia. Earlier, he picked up a technical. We were trying to figure out what happened. Well, we have the video, and it was a kick to Miguel. Blatant, obvious, the technical was the right call.
There's no question. And I'll write the written apology to the officials for what we thought before. I mean, that's unacceptable. That's Bush League. We don't have to say any more about that type of a play. I mean, it's just so unsportsman. Like you said, I mean, 6'10" freshman from Senegal, went to high school at Huntington Prep in West Virginia. An opportunity to make a mark here, and you do something like that, and there's never a need or a cause for that.
You get the sense this is a critical juncture for Kansas State, win or lose. If a young team can get some positives out of this game, they got to within 8. West Virginia has answered with an 8-0 run. Bruce Weber told us they're in these situations where they're in striking distance and then the other team goes on a run and there's no stopper. Can Kansas State stop the bleeding and at least get back into this game? Eziagu, and that one rolls through.
Nice move there. The problem is every time they've closed it or cut it, West Virginia, either out of a timeout by Bob Huggins or just of their own volition, has ratcheted up their defense and started turning Kansas State over again.
Sherman, he scored the last 6. That one hit the side of the backboard. Miguel, who's got 9 in this half, to McGurl. And 4 straight for Kansas State.
And that'll help. When you struggle to score in a half court, getting out in transition will help.
Quick 3 by Bridges, not there. Miguel all the way, bumped. And 2 shots coming.
You know, that was the thing with Miguel early in the year for Bruce Weber is, and a lot of players fall into this. They think they're pros. They want to show everybody that they can shoot threes. And that's what he was falling in love with. 1 of 11 from 3 in his last 3 games, so he hasn't even shot it well of late. And Bruce Weber's thing is drive the ball. You've got a great body, you're a good athlete and a good finisher. Drive it.
Big 12 now on ESPN Plus, a must-have for Big 12 fans. Thursday, you get to watch 9th-ranked Kansas take on TCU at 8 Eastern, and then Tuesday, February 2nd, you wake up to Sonny and Cher. You've got the Mountaineers and Ames to take on Iowa State, and the Jayhawks will take on rival K-State.
What was a Sonny and Cher reference? Did I miss that?
Tuesday, February 2nd. Alarm hits 6 o'clock. I Got You Babe comes on.
Oh, Groundhog Day.
It's a long way to go to ruin a good joke. Or an average joke, whatever. That's deep. See, Dallin Coffin went to the Ivy League, would have been all over that.
That's a very pedestrian. It's either pedestrian or like a meta level type of joke from you, my friend. It's getting a little physical. Good drive there by Miguel, and Osaboyan plays like a linebacker and says, not in our backfield.
McGurl. The rebound to Culver, who's been quiet for the most part today. Inside to Culver, bullies his way in, bumped. The basket counts, a chance for a three-point play.
Hasn't been an explosive offensive day from Derek Culver, but he shows you the dexterity in traffic, the deft.
UFC 257 live from Fight Island tonight, 10 Eastern on pay-per-view. They fought the first time. McGregor, a minute 46 in, landed one behind the ear, not the back of the head. He got him right behind the ear. Dazed Poirier. Some were saying lucky punch. Rematch this time. Who do you got?
Well, I'll use my own experience. Every fight I've gotten into that I lost in under 2 minutes, there is no way, whether it be a day later, 6 years later, or 20 years later, that I had any chance of winning that fight. So I'm going Conor McGregor. I think he wins this thing. He's got the mental edge. I mean, less than 2 minutes, he beat this guy 6 years ago. What's up with that, Anish?
Okay, but did you watch the fight? In the actual fight, it wasn't really a hard punch. He got him right behind the ear.
All right.
He dazed Poirier, and that was it. I think Poirier is going to be aware of the headshots. He'll be aware of the headshots, and I think he wins the rematch.
Here's the other thing. I think this thing goes longer because I think Conor McGregor.
Well, that's okay. Went 146 last time. Way to go out on a limb.
Come on. I'm taking the over. I'm taking the over. If the over-under's 2 minutes, I'm taking the over on this one.
I think we'll get a few rounds. I think this one goes deep. We get another whistle. Iziegu's second foul. He returned Tuesday against Oklahoma, played only 11 minutes. Said he was a little out of shape after missing 10 games post-knee surgery. Gives them a paint protector, a rim protector down low, which Kansas State has not had for the bulk of conference play. Miguel. Iziegu blocked by Culver.
Oh.
4-on-2. McNeil. Offensive foul.
Boy, I'll tell you what. That play Derek Culver just made, that's how he's going to make money in this game. That's how he makes money. I mean, that is he didn't quite get it. It looked like he got more at the time, but he got a slight piece. But the challenge alone, I mean, look, he's a good offensive player here at West Virginia. If he's going to make money playing this game, rebounder, rim protector, and that's exactly what that was. No fear.
And it looks like Culver just picked up his third foul. We said it many times. First game in 2 weeks for West Virginia. Where do you see the rust? Yeah, there have been sloppy moments. But on the glass, where the Mountaineers are usually as good as anybody in the country, Minus 12 for the game. That's surprising.
Yeah, well, it is surprising. I mean, part of it is they've made shots. You know, they're shooting at a much higher clip than Kansas State is. But look, this game has been at a slow pace. Let's not. I mean, there are games in this league, and it's a grinding league. But there are games that are going to be played at a faster pace in these. So the question, I think, continues to be, what kind of shape is West Virginia in moving forward?
Iziegu's third foul.
But the one thing I will say is their defense, and again, I know who they're playing, I got it. But their rotations, making a play like Culver made down on the other end, that's where I thought they were struggling before the break. What was their defense? I mean, their offense was bad last year. There was only going to be so much improvement coming into this year. This team has to be about defense and getting stops. That's their identity. The last 3 games, Texas, Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma, 2 of those losses, and of course the Oklahoma State one, they had to come back down almost 20 in that game to win it. Those opponents are shooting 45% from the field. So I think it's their defense that, if you're Bob Huggins, that's got to be ratcheted up here as they continue play.
Miguel leading K-State with 10 points. Off the bounce. Another offensive rebound. Iziegu struggled with the handle, bailed out by the foul. If it's Culver, it is, and that's 4. And remember, the other big guy, Seni Njai, also has 4 after the technical.
Well, and then also with Njai, do you put him back in after he, essentially tried to trip somebody? I mean, I'll tell you what, this Iziego is, you would have loved to have seen him in a uniform this entire season to this point. I mean, 6'10", 255. Those guys just don't grow on trees. A lot of things you can't teach about his physical size and dimensions. And then you see he's willing to mix it up. I mean, he's been physical in this game in the paint.
Small lineup now with Culver to the bench. Essentially a 5-out look. McNeil pulls up, too strong, rebound Iziegu. And now with Culver out, if you're K-State, you got to be in attack mode, right?
Drive it.
Loose ball. Matthews the hustle. Osaboy into the cutting Matthews.
And that's what you get when there's nobody on the block or in the paint. A nice little cut there, 5-out motion, an odd look with West Virginia, but good execution, and you see how athletic Matthews is.
And you mentioned what Iziegu brings. Conditioning still a concern. He had knee surgery. This is just his 2nd game back. Only played 11 minutes Tuesday and did say afterwards he felt a little out of shape. He's up to 17 minutes now. McNeil is open. And the rebound by McGurl. Three-pointer, Deshaun Gordon spins out. Miguel, and that one is knocked away by Osaboyan. He does that so well.
Emmett Matthews has been starting all year for West Virginia. Did not start today, but he's made an impact. Nice cut there. Good pass from Osaboyan. The 6'7" Matthews finishing home.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is presented by 5-Hour Energy Shots. Get it done. Both Kansas State and West Virginia represented on NBA rosters. Dean Wade, K-State forward, now with the Cleveland Cavaliers. He was on that 2019 Big 12 champion team. Part of a run of 3 straight NCAA tournament appearances, including an Elite 8, but then 3-15 last year, although a number of those losses were close. 10 games, in fact, by 6 points or less. 1-6 this year. Kansas State has lost 5 straight. No Nigel Pack. That is significant. He's their starting point guard. They hope to get him back for the next game. Today was his first day out of COVID protocol, but after not having practiced in 2+ weeks, Bruce Weber playing it safe. Osaboyan looking for that backdoor cut. It's intercepted. Corner 3, Rudy Williams not there. Offensive rebound. Bradford on the putback, missed it. Gets it back, has it stripped away. 25 turnovers now for K-State, the most under Bruce Weber.
Let's take that. I mean, that's where, when they've gotten in transition, Anish, they've got finishers. They've got guys who could put their head down, put it on the floor, and get to the basket. It's just been a real struggle in the half court. It's amazing the number of turnovers that have come just against half court West Virginia defense.
Foul on Williams, his second. And Chris, it's not like West Virginia has gone to a full court press. This isn't press Virginia from a few years ago. Bob Huggins will use the press every now and then, but most of the mistakes for Bruce Weber's team, self-inflicted. 1-1 for McCabe. Started today for the first time this season. He had started 40+ games, though, the last 2 years. Did not have a good season a year ago. And Miles McBride has really been that primary ball handler. And he's put up an all-conference type season for West Virginia.
Now, McCabe's done a nice job. And you wonder, you know, he starts the game today, like you said, and you wonder if it is a strategic decision trying to get Miles McBride off the ball. You wonder if it's because McCabe was one of those 6 guys who was able to practice and work out over the last 2 weeks. But he's done a nice job. I mean, look, in this league, you look at the guards, Anish. Athletic, quick, scoring guards. You know, at times, he's not a great athlete, obviously. A little bit limited in size. And that's where he can struggle. But he's done a nice job today.
McCabe, Culver back in there with the 4 fouls. And that one he lost. Shot clock at 5. Sherman is fouled on the shot with 4 on the shot clock.
Culver here, and he's going to go with what Anish said there, that the ball slipped, that it just wasn't an errant pass. But it ended up in the right hands. You know, Tad Sherman's interesting. You mentioned earlier, he's a junior college player, and he's kind of followed the path of a lot of these junior college guys who have come through West Virginia. When you think about the junior college mentality, it's really about the individual. It's about how am I going to get myself that scholarship to the next level. And so it's very inward. It's how can I get my shot? How do I get my buckets? And that takes an adjustment, because when you get on a college campus, you get a program like West Virginia, now it's about us. Now it's about how can you help our team. And I think it took Sherman a year to adjust to that, and he's been really, really good for them this season.
And we've seen that a lot. Second year in the system for JUCO guys under Bob Huggins. That's when the light bulb goes off. 52-36. K-State done in by 25 turnovers. Mountaineers haven't been great today, but they've done enough. First game in 2 weeks. Some cobwebs to dust off. And obviously a big one on Monday for West Virginia. Texas Tech comes to Lubbock in a top 25 matchup.
We can all agree that no fans or limited fans in these buildings stinks. But the one residual benefit is you can hear almost everything these coaches say.
The foul is on Kedrian Johnson. And 2 shots coming for Mike McGurl. I'm with you. And listen, I'm not saying this is the sole reason for the struggles of some of the blue bloods like Duke and Carolina and Kentucky. You've been there. You go to Cameron, a 7-0 run turns into a 15-0 run because of the crazies. They can throw you off your game. Well, now, especially for younger players, and that's what I've heard from coaches, it's impacting the younger guys more. You're recruited and you're pitched on atmosphere. And then you get there and you knock down a couple of threes and it's crickets.
Yeah, there's no question. And also, like the pregame. I mean, I played at Cameron twice when I was at Army. And some of the most nerve-wracking stuff is when they pick you out an hour and a half before the game and just start killing you during pregame warm-ups. I'm sitting there saying, yo, I'm just warming up, man. And we haven't even started playing yet. I'm lining up here against Jay Williams and Shane Battier and Boozer. The game is going to be demoralizing enough. Lay off. But it's the whole environment. It's the whole big picture. I'm with you. I think officials, I'd be curious what they think about it. I think at times, you know, late in games, these road teams are getting perhaps a kinder whistle than they normally would. I mean, these officials are human. I think there's a lot that plays into it. And the Big Ten has been one of the examples. Road teams have had a ton of success in this conference so far.
What was that like the first time at Cameron when they knew your grandmother's middle name?
It's demoralizing, man. And then then you start thinking, look, do you hate the troops? I mean, you're paying for my education as a taxpayer. I'm down here serving the country, and you're killing me because you think I'm too skinny and too small and not good looking enough. Can you tell I'm still affected?
Well, how many of those things? No, I'm just kidding. 56-37 West Virginia, 4:42 to go. We get a technical foul on Kedrian Johnson. Second technical against the Mountaineers today. Njai picked up one as well. Johnson 0 in blue. Magic word, perhaps?
Well, we were just talking about no crowds in there. Here's the other thing. You know, a guy blocks a shot and, does the little ish talk that we all know. Give me that. Or a play like that where a guy, look, this is about talking, man. This is competition. The unfortunate part is the officials can hear everything. And there's only so many things that they're going to let go.
I have a hard time with that. I understand. Listen, the cancel culture police, the language, emotion, and that stuff, and trash talk. It's a part of basketball. You can't legislate emotion in sports. There is a fine line there.
Well, I'm with you.
Another foul away from the ball. Been an interesting week in the Big 12. 8 of the 15 games that were scheduled going back to last Saturday were postponed. Earlier today, Kansas fell at Oklahoma, third loss in a row for the Jayhawks, something that has not happened since 2013. Baylor shook off a sluggish first half to knock off Oklahoma State. Cowboys without Cade Cunningham. I was looking at Joe Lunardi's bracketology this morning, Chris, and 5 Big 12 teams on a top 4 seed line. So essentially there's 7 teams that Lunardi has from the Big 12 in the field. 5 of those are amongst his top 16 teams. And that's going to be 5 on Culver. His day is done. Mountaineers by 15. They got to put the ribbon and wrapping paper on this one. All right, fellas, thank you. I'm surprised that Dallin didn't get a shout out in for his guy, Seth Towns, another Ivy Leaguer. Now, this is bracketology now.
Seth Towns is from
Harvard.
Seth Towns is from Harvard, and Dallin, being a Columbia guy, they're all jealous of Harvard because Harvard is the Harvard of the Ivy League.
The Harvard of Harvard. Towns, of course, plays for Ohio State. The Big Ten has 5 teams amongst the top 4 seeds, according to Joe Lunardi. So it's Big Ten, Big 12. The SEC's got a couple. The ACC with just 1, and that's Virginia on the 4 line. Power concentrated in the Big Ten and Big 12 this season.
It is. Well, one of the reasons, and this is not an excuse for the SEC or ACC, but those 2 teams in the last 2 years have been ravaged by the NBA draft. And so turning over rosters in those conferences year over year, as we can see, has been very difficult. You know, these conferences are old. I mean, look, the 2 things that Baylor and Texas, who are the 2 best teams in this conference, Baylor 1, Texas 2, obviously, is they have old guards. I mean, their backcourts are old and they're terrific. And when you have that in college basketball, you're going to win a lot of games.
McBride for 3. He's got 15. Does that make you rethink recruiting at all, Chris?
It absolutely would. There's no question. Now, I mean, the dilemma is if you got a number of these freshmen who say, I want to go to your school, you know, that's the catch-22. I mean, you're not going to tell them no. But the problem is it's becoming harder and harder to survive. And with the transfer players being able to play right away with, you know, the one-time transfer, I think it becomes even harder for those programs that are playing predominantly young players.
To me, if you can't get a number of these one-and-done guys, and the 3 examples that come to mind, Markelle Fultz at Washington, Dennis Smith at NC State, Ben Simmons at LSU. Big-time recruits, supposed to elevate the program. All 3 players not only did not lead their teams to the NCAA tournament, they got their coaches fired.
Right. Well, it's, I mean, you hit it right on the head. I mean, look, there are things that freshmen were used to be able to work through and needed to work through, and only the exceptional talents, the Zion Williamsons, you go back, the most talented freshman I ever saw, ever, was Kevin Durant when he played at Texas. Those are few and far between. And when you're trying to win with freshmen in bulk, you just can't do it, especially in a conference like the Big 12 or even the Big 10.
And to your example, Zion, you had R.J. Barrett there. You had other guys around him, other talented high-end freshman players. Sometimes you get that one player, just that one single player. In the long run, it can weirdly do more harm than good. Yes, it gives you a shot, or sometimes, you know, they leave and then other guys transfer. We've seen it blow up in the face of too many teams where handling that guy is part of the equation as well. Some programs, Duke, Kentucky obviously come to mind, know how to handle those players and everything that comes with it. Some don't.
Well, and then what you're relying on are players who are in your program to ascend. But let's face it, I mean, look at North Carolina this year. You're relying on a guy like Garrison Brooks, who's that league's preseason player of the year. If Garrison Brooks was that good, Garrison Brooks would have been long gone. Guys just aren't sticking around for the heck of it. So it becomes even harder to rely on those veterans if they're not growing through your program as part of a culture.
Carolina is a great example. All three of Roy Williams' championship teams there, they have all relied on older guys. Their star freshmen have been complementary pieces.
Yeah. I mean, look, my last year at Duke, Anish, when we won in 2010, our starting lineup were 3 seniors and 2 juniors.
Yeah.
And then the following year, we got Kyrie Irving, and that was kind of the beginning of the freshman thing for Duke. But, that team won that year because it was old. No other, and tough, and all the things that come with age. Played West Virginia in the Final Four that year, and they were old and tough.
Texas, Iowa State women's will begin on ESPN News. We'll take you there on ESPN2 right after our game. That one has just tipped off, if that's what you're looking for. UFC 257 tonight. Fight Island in Abu Dhabi, the setting. Conor McGregor, notorious, against Dustin the Diamond Poirier. In their first meeting, I said it earlier, McGregor landed a legit clean hit right behind the ear. 1:46 into the bout. It stunned Poirier, and McGregor won. It wasn't the hardest hit. Listen, you get somebody, there's a reason a shot behind the head is illegal.
Oh, my gosh.
I think Poirier is going to win. I think he's going to win.
Look. Wow.
I'm calling it a lucky shot. I'm calling it a lucky shot.
That's somebody who lost a fight at some point in his day by a lucky shot. That's you're burned, man. You are so revealed.
Just one? $18 points now for McBride. 4 of 7 from 3. And the bounce is there. Drew Honus, the walk-on. "27 turnovers today for Kansas State. Only 16 made baskets." West Virginia back in the win column after not playing for 2 weeks. A long time to stew on that loss to Texas on the late 3 by Andrew Jones. Osaboy into the tin, his first basket. Where does West Virginia need to be better before Monday's game against Texas Tech?
They're gonna have to guard, some that motion stuff that Chris Beard runs. That it's tough to scout. It's a lot of unpredictable movement. And I've said it all game, Anish. That's where, I think not having the 2 bigs defensively. We've talked about West Virginia reinventing offensively. They're reinventing defensively as well. That's going to be a physical game Monday night. A lot of fun to watch. And you talk about, how this conference shifts in terms of standings. That's a big-time game.
Final seconds at Bramlage. And the Mountaineers just take the shot clock violation. West Virginia will go to 3-3 in conference play. K-State will fall to 1-7. The Wildcats winless in calendar year 2021. 2 weeks without a game. West Virginia comes back, fast start, and they roll to a 22-point victory. Texas Tech comes to Morgantown on Big Monday. Off we send you.